certainly caught my attention. You heard about it on our radio station. And for me, the powerful piece was on Global News, our partners, Global News, and you can read this story on globalnews.ca. A Calgary couple earlier this week sharing their story of being beaten and almost robbed in their own home after two men showed up to buy a laptop. They had seen the laptop advertised on Facebook Marketplace. They go into the house and had no intention of paying for said laptop. Out came the pepper spray, and this couple was just basically assaulted in their own home. So it begs the question. I use Facebook Marketplace. I've used Kijiji many, many times. How can you still make these transactions on the marketplace, for example, and still be safe? Well, with some answers, we're joined this morning by Dr. Robert Chow, of course, Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of British Columbia and core member of the Interdisciplinary Designing for People Research Cluster. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
This was a big story in the city of Calgary, Dr. Chow, and it's one of those things where, we don't want to hole up. We want to interact. We want to, clean out our homes and get rid of some of this stuff. People could use it, but we want to be safe. How common is something like the story that I did, bring to your attention in the past 2 minutes?
Yeah, so certainly, according to the study that was run, something like 1 in 6 people experience scams on peer-to-peer marketplaces, such as Facebook Marketplace. So this is a relatively common thing to have happen, unfortunately. Now, scams, of course, can come in all forms. Certainly, very few of them are going to involve physical altercations like the one you described. Much more commonly, of course, people just run away with the money, or they provide a product that's broken, or they don't provide any sort of product at all, or, those sort of things, right? But certainly, there are, risks operating with any peer-to-peer marketplace, such as Facebook Marketplace and others. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You might see their pictures, your profile pictures, you might read a description, but as we do know, not everything is true and down to the letter online. So first of all, you don't really know these people. So how can we do a transaction and remain safe?
Yeah, so certainly there are things to look out for, right? So if there are people that are in the same community as you or that you have any contacts in common with, right, certainly that can be a helpful signal. Certainly in a city as large as Calgary, that can not always the case. You're going to know the people in question. Asking to meet in relatively public areas, for example, or things like places where it's less likely to have a kind of a big concern about things like that can also help as well. So places where there's lots of people to observe things going on. So people want to be safe in their own homes, for example, but certainly that can be a risky move if you don't know the people in question. Certainly just, using your spidey senses, right? So being aware, right? If you see, this seems to be too good to be true, or this seems like irrelevant stories, or they don't seem really interested in the product. They just seem interested in, for example, closing the sale as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
They're not asking kind of relevant questions about the sale in ways that you would kind of expect. Those can be red flags, actually, that indicate that the transaction you're about to engage in is not an honest one.
Interesting. Just before we let you go, Dr. Chow, I'm wondering about, for example, the sites themselves, these platforms. Are they doing anything to regulate this and monitor these situations? I know it should be on our onus because literally that's all we can control. But is it on the, responsibility of these platforms, and are they doing anything?
Yeah, that's the problem, is the scale and size of Facebook Marketplace is making it very hard, by Facebook's own arguing, to actually moderate the marketplace. So there's a very, very distinct lack of moderation. There's also a distinct lack of dispute resolution. So basically, if something does go wrong, Facebook Marketplace isn't going to be there to help you out. Unlike, for example, eBay or other kind of sites where there will be some amount of dispute resolution. So this can be quite challenging for sellers and buyers alike, because, if things go south, it's really just down to people themselves to mediate the situation. Should there be more moderation? Probably yes. Is it hard to do that at the scale of Facebook Marketplace? That's also certainly the case. Yeah.
Interesting conversation and timely after the events of this week. We appreciate your time and your insight on this, Dr. Chow. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Dr. Robert Chow, Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and a core member of the Interdisciplinary Designing for People Research Cluster. Coming up, yes, before we hit 9 o'clock, we'll reveal the winner of Guess Who and award a pair of tickets to Country Thunder 2026. And ahead in Tony's News, details emerging this morning from a suspicious death in the city's southeast. That's ahead in 4 minutes. Hey, thank you for taking us along for the ride here on the Morning Brew. Coming up, we'll do one last check-in with Leslie Horton. Of course, she's the ringleader of the Morning of Giving. We've been spending the whole morning down here at the Blue Flame Kitchen at Atco Park. It's at 5302 Forend Street Southwest. Just put Blue Flame Kitchen at Atco Park in your GPS. Take you right here. You see this gorgeous complex every time you're driving down Crowchild Trail just before you get to the interchange for Glenmore. But you just have to loop around. Come and pop by before 9 if you've got a new unwrapped toy or household item, even an electronics item, to make the season brighter for those in need in our fine city. So we'll wrap things up with the Morning of Giving coming up as well. Before we hit 9 o'clock, who is the big winner of Country Thunder tickets and who had the correct answer for Guess Who this morning? That'll come your way just before 9.
This is Global News. I'm Tony King. Mostly cloudy and -8 at 8:30. One person is dead. 3 people are in custody after an early morning shooting in the southeast community of Linwood. Global's Michael King is at 20A Street Southeast with the latest.
Officers tell us at around 12:30 they were called out here to Linwood for reports of shots fired. When they arrived, they found that one man was outside of his vehicle on the ground suffering from gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead here at the scene. A short while later, they found a vehicle with one suspect, took them into custody. Then following that, someone in the community of Palliser received or made a call to 911 saying that there was suspicious activity in or around their property. Police attended there, and they took 2 other people into custody. Their connection to the shooting is still under investigation, but police thought that was important enough to include in the information they've passed along to us, so that's going to make up part of that investigation as well.
Ogden Elementary School, which houses the Almadina Language Academy, will be closed for the day. Coming up, the Bank of Canada holds the line on interest rates to end the year, but first, KOR Calgary helicopter traffic. The Bank of Canada has left its key interest rate unchanged at 2.25% at its final rate decision for the year.
Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says inflationary pressures continue to be contained despite some added costs from tariffs. The bank also sees the current rate at about the right level to keep inflation close to its 2% target, as long as economic activity comes in largely in line with its expectations. Macklem warns, however, that uncertainty remains high and the range of possible outcomes is wider than usual. The bank lowered interest rates this year by 1 percentage point overall. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
The opposition NDP says the UCP government continues to violate decades of legislative norms by limiting debate on multiple bills which make unprecedented changes. This after the UCP caucus voted to end the session early on Monday. Justice Minister Mickey Amery says the government offered to extend debate on 3 bills, but the NDP did not want to give up debate on opposition motions. Opposition House Leader Christina Gray says it wasn't a fair exchange.
That sounds to me like the rhetoric of bullies that say, we're going to take away your time to talk about what you want to talk about, but we're going to blame you because you didn't want to talk about our government business.
Both Gray and independent MLA Peter Guthrie alleged that the UCP shut down the session rather than face questions about severance payments to Alberta Health Services staff, among others. Meanwhile, Guthrie has announced that he is the new leader of the Alberta Party. In a social media post last night, he says, quote, "Together we will restore confidence, reverse efforts that undermine our democratic institutions, and return normal, responsible government to Alberta." Guthrie and fellow independent Scott Sinclair face a lawsuit from their former party, the UCP, after they talked about trying to reboot the progressive conservative brand in Alberta. RCMP are investigating multiple instances of hate-motivated graffiti in and around Brooks. Mounties say 9 instances of white supremacist symbols and messages have been found in various public places since October. The city also reports stickers promoting the White Lives Matter movement have been found on traffic signs and other public areas. RCMP believe the graffiti and the stickers are the work of a small group or a single individual. Last week's Canada Food Price Report says meat prices will help to drive a $1,000 increase in the average Canadian family's grocery bill in 2026. Some local butchers say demand for cheaper cuts of beef is already rising. The Canadian Cattle Association says North American ranchers are still rebuilding herds after years of drought, and it could take another 2 to 3 years for inventory to catch up and prices to come down. In sports, the Calgary Flames return to the ice tonight to host the Detroit Red Wings with a chance to extend their current win streak to 4 games. Meanwhile, the Toronto Raptors have lost 4 in a row after dropping a 117